All right, now I'll call to order the Zero Waste Subcommittee meeting on September 28th at 2:04 p.m. And all members present. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? All right, a motion to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion or a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there any public discussion on the approval of the minutes? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, next item is the solid waste ordinance update. Mr. Hinbach or Mr. Mann, I'm not sure who's taking one.
I'll kick it off. Good afternoon, everybody. We've had a very productive month working with the City Attorney's Office. And you see Assistant City Attorney Catherine Mockler is here to help us out and answer any questions you may have. We did just do a little PowerPoint up that maybe Kristen is going to put on the screen so the folks out there can see. And we had some, obviously you got a copy of what we have so far. And then we have some questions and look for some feedback and some comments from the City Attorney's Office. And we'll just wait for Kristen.
Sorry.
No problem.
Don't sweat it, we're just waiting on you, Kristen.
No pressure.
We have at least 2 hours.
Yeah, 100 people watching.
All right.
Should have
Here we go.
We're in double digits.
No, that's not the right one.
Okay. I don't think it's in the back.
That was the last one, I think.
Print it out for me.
apologize. Okay, yes, I got it.
Very well.
I think I just closed the whole thing out. I apologize, everyone. Hold on one second.
Sorry. Take your time.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't say presentation, that's the problem. All right, this is the
Yeah.
ordinance update, second to last one.
If I don't tile it right.
I did it again, I tried.
That's a good question.
All right, how's this one?
There we go.
Here we go.
So we do have a few questions, and just looking for a little feedback on some of our enforcement measures that we're going to undertake as we move forward with the ordinance. So specifically, as we've got to go through these multifamily recycling signage and container location, we've talked a lot about how we feel that it's important, one, to have proper labeling on there, and also the city, that the recycling should be as convenient as the garbage, unless the city and the landowner decide on something better for the system. So basically, there are 4 enforcement options available. There's the typical code enforcement proceeding that goes in front of the special magistrate who, as you know, crafts some remedy over time and usually gives the offender a couple, 3 chances to fix it. There's the civil citation, that's a one-time violation, and then subsequently they can end up in court. Section 1.9 is referenced numerous times in our code of ordinances. That's a $500 per day fine or 60 days in prison. And then there's always state court where the city could go to seek injunction. We're recommending the typical code enforcement proceeding that would give the offenders the opportunity to remedy those situations. All right, next slide. As we were working through this, we kind of came up, we realized we kind of forgot or really wasn't aware of a situation here in town. We do want adequate space provided for solid waste, but specifically in our downtown area is one of the areas we really struggle with solid waste. We have people, going to the streets with garbage. So we probably should craft out some language that gives us some exemptions, or at least recognizes that certain areas of the city require some special needs. As Phil and I have been talking for about 2 years about.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. The city attorney is recommending that we don't put in pilot programs and policies within the ordinance. So that would include the food waste diversion and curbside, some of the reuse at multifamily we've discussed, reuse at curbside, and then of course the surplus to nonprofit reuse organizations. So we're committed to continuing these, and we'll continue them, but like I said, the city attorney's office is recommending that we don't put that in the actual ordinance.
So the food waste, you're talking about the composting portion?
Yeah,
So it's not
any pilot.
These weren't pilots. It has to be done by a certain date, by
Right.
2024 for the whole city, and it phased in over a period of time. So it's a pilot, but it's just, we're starting here, but it's not, it's a phased in approach till 2020, whatever, it's 2024. Yeah, so I wouldn't call that a pilot. It's a phased approach, which we've done many times in other city ordinances.
I understand what you're saying, but part of the problem with the food waste ordinance is that it's sort of like electric cars, where people are not going to start buying electric cars until they see sufficient charging stations throughout a city. And there won't be sufficient charging stations until there's enough electric cars to support them. So with the food waste ordinance, what I understand is that there may not be enough food waste haulers or servicers or processors yet to service everyone that wants to compost. So it's difficult to put something in place that's mandatory where we're going to regulate everyone until you have to do this without them necessarily having the availability of the food composting processors.
So I mean, I think it's if you never actually mandate it, it'll never actually come. So I mean, I think we put it in there, if we get to the date and it's not possible for us to do it, then we can always change it. I think not putting it in there is we've got this ordinance of actually putting things in there. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's exactly the issue. The market isn't going to solve this on its own. It has not. It's not going to start until it's pushed to. Very much like EVs. Until there is government action that moves into that direction, you're not going to see a substantial number of EVs on the road. These services will not create themselves until there's a market for them, and the market gets created by the regulation. As Commissioner Santos said, we can always back out of this, but if we don't ever back into it, it just won't ever be a thing. It'll continue to be aspirational, and wouldn't that be a great thing to do?
When are these pilots completed?
No, we're in the
Oh,
process
sorry.
with the food waste composting program.
When is that one supposed to be done?
A year from now, we got another year on our grant, and we're just starting to looking at reuse and curbside, and we're going to work with probably the repurpose project on some sort of multi-use pilot in the next fiscal year.
Okay. So my thinking, the pilot programs are twofold, right? Helping to create that demand, but also to help us learn how to supply it. My thinking was that there would be pilot programs to sort of educate us on how to bring up those phased approaches. And how we do the phasing in is very, very meticulous. Since we're using the electric vehicles analogy, I will follow suit. I remember there was a city in Israel that created the infrastructure for electric vehicles. It was the best you could possibly imagine. The reason I learned about this is because of the study that was done when that failed. And it was not because people didn't want to buy electric vehicles, it was because the phase was not done right. They just did it. And so I think we should just be a little bit cautious, trying to figure out, which approach is going to be the silver bullet that gets it done. I think what we have to do is we have to really learn how our residents are going to respond by using these pilot programs, because I want these phased-in approaches to work. I don't want to have to go back. That, to me, that's just time we don't have. So I would like for us to be able to I want our residents to expect that this is going to happen. number one. I don't want these pilots to be pass or fail. That's not how I'm seeing it. I'm seeing these pilots as pass
Yep.
with a grade. So that's my thinking, and I don't think we, like, leaving out the phase language in this presentation. It's anything that's going to change the ordinance. But I think when we get to the ordinance, I think we have to include the lessons that we're going to get from those pilots. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, Commissioner Ariel, I think you're right about learning that, and then about how we do it. And the ordinance, or my thoughts with the phase and the timeline, it's saying by this date we will do it. We're not saying how we're going to do it, because we've learned from the pilots. It's just saying that by a certain date that the city will do it. And we'll learn about the pilot and how we actually structure it. Because I putting how we exactly do it into the ordinance, I think would lead to failure, because we wouldn't be able to learn from the pilots and be able to be nimble enough. But I think having a goal, a set date, allows our staff to be nimble and to change based on what happens with the pilots and things like that. That's how many other cities have done it too, is they set a date and they just work their way to it.
Okay. Well, if it's just a start date, then that's very. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, like in date, as in like, yeah, by whatever, 2024 it's going to be 100% of the city or something like that, or whatever we think. Okay. Commissioner Sacco?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's two separate things. The deadline is the one. How you all eventually figure it out, whether it be through pilots, whether it be through spot, however you decide to do it. But we're just saying by this date, we have to have a plan in place. And that will be hold accountable future commissions. Like, this is the direction the city will go in.
Yeah.
Good luck on doing it.
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, it's not we should not include the details of the phase-in in the ordinance, absolutely. But if we don't say, by this date, this needs to happen, then it remains aspirational, and wouldn't that have been nice if we had done that sort of thing? It then puts pressure on staff and commissioners to create the plan and to partner with the community to create the plan in a way that works. But if we don't put the date that it has to be done by, which we've run into over and over and over and over and over again for the last 4.5 years, if we don't include the date when it must be done, it absolutely will happen.
Mr. Mann?
I just want to share with you, over still on the slide, surplus for nonprofit reuse. One of the issues you asked us to bring back was fleet. And so I've got the final draft of the memos in the city manager's office now. I did find out that we're doing some of that. One of the local cities has approached us already about purchasing at the appropriate price some of our used vehicles, because they feel that some of the vehicles that we have used are better than their existing vehicles. Kind of scary to think about, but so we've looked at it from both the fleet side and the RTS side, so I hope to bring you something at the next meeting on that.
Thank you.
Just want to give you a quick update since we're discussing it now.
Continue, Mr. McCloud.
No, I think you're right. I think we throughout this subcommittee, we've talked about the chicken or the egg. And I think, and I can tell you right now that we're already getting feedback from the industry because we are considering these things. And I think dates will encourage them even more and show a commitment from the city.
And if I may,
Yes,
so even if we're saying, multifamily will have to have this, it's one thing for us to say it and try to look for composting partners for
Right.
single family neighborhoods. But if you have all of these giant multifamily complexes equally seeking it out, it won't just be the city of Gainesville. It's a couple, maybe 100
Right.
different contracts that we could get out of Gainesville, and that provides a lot more, I guess, push to either broaden existing businesses or to launch with at least what does work already.
Exactly.
And I think we're moving towards a single hauler for collection for the city, so we're in essence figuring it out anyway for our both businesses and residents, because here's a person who will do it for you at that price. All right, Mr. Hamlock?
Same thing with, as we have with the multifamily, just looking for some feedback on the prescription drug take back, whether that's through the code, special magistrate, civil citation, the 500 per day, or the state court injunction. So we'll be looking for feedback for that. We like the special magistrate also on this one.
Commissioner Sacco?
I do have one question about efficiency. And maybe you can walk me through code a little better, like that process. I don't do the thing. I receive notice that I'm not doing the thing. I
Right.
get 21 days to fix the thing.
Yep.
I still don't fix the thing.
Right.
I receive a citation. I can then challenge it. with
Yeah,
the
then it
special
goes,
magistrate?
I'll defer to Catherine, but it then goes to the special magistrate, and that often takes a while.
Yes. So, I don't know what the timeline is really. I think it takes maybe 2 or 3 months before a case gets to the special magistrate typically. And then the special magistrate might give someone an additional 15 days to comply, and then fines start running.
We're talking at a season. From like, we let you know to the magistrate.
Yeah.
Somebody gives you. So, maybe I'm too much of a sledgehammer, but I wonder about which one's gonna do it faster and which one's gonna do it cheaper. Because would this be our special magistrate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're paying for that as well. So I don't want, I don't want us to spend more time or money than absolutely necessary to get people to comply.
I think civil citation would be the fastest route.
Because then it's, well, we would still have, the attorney's office would still have to go to defend it, or would someone from Solid?
Not necessarily. You would issue the civil citation. I'm trying to think what other situations, like smoking in parks, I think there's a civil citation for that. So you just issue it when you see the violation, and then you expect the person to pay. And if they don't pay at that point, we would file it with the county court.
And who goes to represent the city in that instance?
The city attorney.
So it's still expensive because that is a person who then has to go.
But it's
for-
in-house, so.
I've looked at this in the past when I had parking operations under me, and the advantage to the special magistrate is when we have to go to court, when we're not the prevailing party, we pay all court costs. Whereas the special magistrate, we already have that person, we're already paying that person to be our special magistrate. So there is some cost savings there, unless you know something I don't.
Right.
And I think one of the things just on civil citations, it's who do you actually find on a trash can not being correctly in the business? Is it the owner of the business? Is it the manager? Is it the employee? Is it the property owner? You start to run into issues like that when you're doing individual fine, but when you're doing codes enforcement, it's on the business or the property. Maybe say, it would say on McDonald's or whatever. They are the ones who are, instead of an individual, I think. I'm not sure though. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hopefully McDonald's is not going to start dispensing prescription drugs.
No.
Think Zoloft.
Not doing it legally.
Coca-Cola, back in the day.
So it's a discrete number of businesses we're dealing with. This is not quite the same as everybody who sells food has to figure out how to dispose of the leftover food. Because that's a much different group of people and a much different number of folks we're dealing with. It's a relatively small environment that they're dealing with, maybe 40, 50, I don't think more than 50 in the city limits, that we ought to be able to work with prior to that, and almost exclusively supported by a large corporate organization who has the ability to do this already. We may have a small number of independent pharmacies, but very few at this point. And even they have a structure that they can plug into to support this. I can't imagine this needing a whole lot of enforcement on the other end. And for the same reason you mentioned, because I don't want to cite a manager for doing what that manager's boss said, we're not going to comply and it's your problem. I would prefer the option that allows us to cite the organization and not the individual. So But I don't think it's an enforcement problem, I really don't.
I should have specified, like, I was worried about the enforcement options at the beginning and now.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to see the question was generally over enforcement, not particularly this one. Because I think some of them already have it. And the rest, you're right, are backed by like corporations. That it would take one going through the process for them to be like, fine, we'll do it. But I was also pulling it back to the multifamily recycling, just to kind of see the enforcements and how they all work versus cost and time, but, okay. Sounds like this is the least complicated one.
So, Mr. Chair, just utilizing some of the experience I gained the last year in the city manager's office, I think anything, because we've got a variety of different things that we issue, either civil citations or send to the special magistrate, and having had this conversation across multiple departments, I think financially our best option is going to be the special magistrate, because we have issues in public works with solid waste, we have issues in public works with right-of-way permits, we have issues in mobility with parking citations. Obviously, we have the code enforcement issues. So all of those things that we can funnel to the special magistrate, which is a singular cost, I think the better off will be just trying to look at the larger picture. That would be my recommendation.
All right, Mr. Turnbuck?
Okay, next slide. So we talked about requiring anyone that provides a styrofoam container for takeout or leftovers that they have to provide recycling for those containers. So working with the city attorney, we've brought up the state statute, and as you can see, I've highlighted the use. So the regulation of the use or sale of polystyrene products is preempted. So city attorney feels like that affects the use of polystyrene.
So I guess just a deeper question on it. If you're not actually regulating, we're not saying they have to actually put it in there and stuff like that. I mean, they have to provide a receptacle. So that's, you still think that's regulating the use?
Yes.
Okay.
So it doesn't limit our authority if we are contracting. So the ones that we're saying,
Right.
so it doesn't apply to us if we are doing it for individuals on public property, and it doesn't apply if we are doing it in a contractual agreement. So if we are talking about folks that we lease our spaces to, that should be allowable.
Yes, I believe we decided that was okay.
So that's an ordinance, or that's one of the things moving forward. That this is on the places that have polystyrene or single-use
to make
plastic
the
bags. They have to provide
recycling space.
recycling for this.
It's not regulating the use so much as the disposal, I would argue, but, I mean, what's the worst case scenario if we go in and they challenge it?
Right. I mean,
I
disposal
mean,
is not use.
what are the, yeah, it's not the use or the sale, it is the disposal of it. And it's, we're not regulating how you use it, just how you dispose of it. And I would argue that's a separate issue.
The post-use life of the product.
Stop it, Tallahassee. I guess I wonder what, I can't find it now, what is the, what enforcement does the state have, or what consequences do we have if we go through with it and it gets challenged?
I don't know off the top of my head. With many of those ordinance, or the state laws that state, the separate regulations preempted, the city might incur all the attorney's fees in the case.
And there isn't much case law on it, right?
Correct.
Do you want to make case law?
We should be making
That's really a question for you, but the city attorney's office would prefer not.
I mean, we can always take this up to the whole commission, right?
I think
This option. for further
If we
debate.
want to recommend something, we should just we should recommend the ordinance, and we have a discussion at that point. If this committee doesn't, I don't think we should bring up portions of it. Let's bring a full ordinance. If this is what the committee wants to move forward on, then we do that. If not, then not.
So I just have one question. So how does the first element of this statute reconcile with the second element? Because the second element seems to say, well, if it's public property, it's your property, if it's your contractual vendors, do what you like. We got a lot of that. So
Yeah,
I understand it's, probably difficult to wordsmith, but I think we can do that without running afoul of the law.
You're confused like I was. It's not about like the ones we lease to on their property, it's like Miapa having to have a dispenser they use.
Oh, so we would have to essentially, would we have to explicitly exempt, or does the law just already, the preemption of the law already?
So the goal would have been, if you use polystyrene in your business,
Period.
you must also have appropriate disposal and or recycling of it present on your business.
Okay.
So that would be
I understand.
everyone. That would be a restaurant, that would be
Okay.
takeout, that would be what have you.
Commissioner, Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Harvey's Vegetarian Barbecue offers takeout in polystyrene containers or at the table in polystyrene containers. City of Gainesville says, Harvey, you gotta figure out how to recycle on site because you offer these. And Harvey sues the City of Gainesville for requiring that because it's at odds with 500.9M. The state isn't going to bring action against us. Harvey's Vegetarian Barbecue will bring action against the city based on that statute, at which you would then have to defend and say, no, it's not about the use, it's about the disposal. So do I have that chain correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Nobody else except that end provider who has to go to the cost of providing a recycling station on site, receptacle, whatever, has cause for action against the city about this, right?
It would most likely be Arby's or Florida Retail Federation.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Representing that.
Yes.
All right. So I guess so this one is somewhat, but like plastic bag recycling is a much broader preemption than this one. If you are saying we already regulate, the plastic bags doesn't have like an exemption and things like that on previous ordinances, correct?
Correct.
So we already telling people you have to dispose of that in certain manners. We already regulate the disposal of plastic bags currently.
I don't think we do.
Well, you have to take that trash and you have to put it into a trash can, you have to do stuff with it. So in essence, it's part of the trash that's being regulated because, I mean, in essence, you gotta put it in the trash can. You have to dispose of it some way.
I'm not aware though of any ordinances we have that direct people as to how to dispose of their plastic bags.
No, but I mean, I think do we not say that you have to get rid of trash or put it into certain places?
No.
I guess we say you have to have trash cans. You don't have to actually dispose of it in there.
Yeah, there's some implied stuff, and obviously you can't, litter.
Yeah, litter, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I mean, we're regulating it since we can't litter it, so we're already in essence regulating it.
How would it say that?
So
Yeah.
I'm for keeping it in and then letting the body decide. I wouldn't mind that fight. And we build case law, one way or the other. Would that be circuit or county if they bring it forward?
It depends.
Because of the cost.
Yeah, usually.
I mean, I'm supportive of we could leave in there and see if we get sued, so we could always move back on. Continuing the fight
I'm
over
okay
it.
with moving this to the commission, but I'll probably maintain the same position. I just don't want to have to go backwards.
You can't go forward if you don't go. You can't go backwards if you can't go forward.
Don't use my own words. Don't use my own words.
If I may bring up, aside from the legality of it, there are also some practical reasons that you may not want to pass this, and I believe this was discussed in the winter at some point, this same discussion by this committee, and it was the practicality of whether or not requiring the business to have recycling bins would ultimately result in people bringing their recycling, their polystyrene back to that business. And I recall some discussion about the public would probably not try to come back to that same business where they received the polystyrene and recycle it there. And there was also an issue, I believe I've spoken with Michael about whether or not there is a market for recycling polystyrene and how much would that cost for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there is a market, it's limited, but maybe more importantly, there's no one currently in the business in this area. So generally, styrofoam recycling tends to happen where like DART has a facility. So whether that would be enough to entice someone to this market, we don't know.
So my understanding, it was less so for a store that will sell products in styrofoam as opposed to a restaurant or similar business serving on-site styrofoam.
Right, yes.
In which case, it's not like, you don't have to depend on the consumer coming back to it. You will drop it off as you leave. You're not going to take your plate with you, most likely.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's not, I know some stores will be like, here's our plastic bag recycling and our styrofoam recycling. That's cool, fine, I use it on occasion. But if I'm sitting at a restaurant, I'm not going to take my plate home with me to then wash it and bring it back. I'm going to toss it there on site. And I think that was more of our direction and intent than, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think my intent was if you are using these things that don't have a way to have an end of life that's good for them, then you need to deal with it on site. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I'm managing Harvey's Vegetarian Barbecue, and instead of going to the expense of providing a disposal chain for this piece of polystyrene, I might make the more obvious choice of using paper plates instead of polystyrene plates, which is the entire idea.
Or wood plate. I mean, you have options.
Right. So, but the intent is to introduce regulation that helps people make responsible choices.
I don't think we should say that part, but you can, just if it becomes too cost burdensome, there are alternatives that one can pursue.
Simple, cheap alternatives.
Does it, four of us say it's cool?
To move it forward.
Move forward.
Like I said, I'm okay with it moving out of the subcommittee. That's
All right.
Okay. Next one, Kristen?
Oh, sorry. We're dealing with a crisis upstairs.
Oh,
The kind of crisis that like we should leave the
No,
basement.
no.
It's my
This calendaring crisis.
no. Oh,
Because I'm not
the worst kind of crisis ever.
I got you, Harvey, I'll carry it.
So as Commissioner Hayes Santos mentioned, the plastic bag recycling is much broader or much more in depth. It does include the word disposition, I might note, on plastic bag recycling requirements.
Which implies that it's two separate things.
Correct.
If you compare the statute, it does imply that for omitting disposition on the, not the road one, on the polystyrene, it is a separate thing that is not regulated. You don't spell out things unless you're gonna spell them out everywhere. Sorry.
No, I think that's one of the things I think that there is a clear difference. I mean, that's my understanding of disposition in this. Is that correct? Then is that what that word means in this thing? Is like getting rid of it?
My non-attorney answer is yes.
Is that your thought as well?
We think that both are preempted. They were written at different times as well, and they're in different sections. I think totally different chapters also, so.
No, I understand that. I'm asking the word disposition in this sense most likely means getting rid of it, correct? Or no, or?
It has a plain meaning of dispose, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's defined up above at all.
Yeah. So I don't think we could probably regulate a plastic bag with that preemption. I don't know.
So, kill that one?
Yeah, and try to move forward on the polystyrene. The plastic bag we don't move forward on,
I don't see a way around it.
it's very broad.
But it does help us.
I think it helps us as well. All right.
And then just one more, I think we had some pretty tight timelines of the reuse the last time we met. I just wanted to lay out for you guys where we're looking at going forward over the next couple of years. We want to do a more in-depth analysis of our curbside bulk. And then we talked about, maybe narrowing down the days and the locations more, instead of all over the city weekly, maybe just a certain area, quarterly, monthly. We'll figure that out, and then in 2023 implement that. And then in this fiscal year, we want to at least get a pilot or two going on with some reuse at multifamily. So we'll tweak that if we're going to keep it in the ordinance. If that's okay with you.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And that's
There's
all.
one more item.
Oh, there's one more item.
Yes. We wanted your feedback on the new section that requires any commercial establishment providing receptacles for collecting and disposing of garbage to the public to have an equal number of receptacles for recyclable materials paired next to the garbage receptacle.
Give us a number.
Yes, sorry. 27-95 on page 49.
Is that number
Page 49, you said?
is the same
Yeah.
as the number 1?
So what's the question,
So we wanted your feedback on this because in discussing this and working with Mr. Heimbach, some restaurants like McDonald's or Panera, they already have their booths and architecture arranged inside so that there is one place for a garbage can, one hole to deposit the garbage. So we're not sure how you could require that restaurant to also place additional cans next to that without blocking pedestrian flow to the restaurant.
Or requiring them to remodel.
So, I think similar to other portions of the ordinance where you said, like, if it's not possible to do, then work with the city staff to create a plan, I think is one out. There are lots of other cities that have done this type of thing where they require recycling and composting wherever the garbage cans are at as well. So they've implemented and been around for years, so I think maybe looking at how they were able to, they would have the same issues. I don't know, but I think maybe having that out is one way they might have done it. I'm just saying, if you can't do it, then you need to work with the city to create it. We at least need to work with them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll do a little more research on that then.
Yeah, I think
Give me
it'd be fine if you're like, this, if not physically possible, you may submit an alternative for city approval. So that way it's not us trying to
Yeah.
figure it out for you. It's like, you did all the thinking. We'll just be like, okay, that's close enough to what we intended. Here you go.
Like the front yard parking ordinance. Like the front yard parking ordinance, you bring us the plan.
Yes.
But I definitely think
Trying
looking
to
at,
not burden you guys.
No, I like your thought on that. You bring us the plan.
I mean, and that way they know what works best. So like, I don't know what Panera's trying to go with, flow or aesthetic or what it looks like day to day. They should know what would work or what wouldn't. So just leave it to them and we approve if it's in the intent of this committee and this.
How does your San Francisco location deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of other cities that have this strict of an ordinance, and I think that maybe talk to them how they were able to work through it.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing would just be to have like a one-size-fits-all, right? But I think it'll fly.
Retrofitting is hard.
Yeah. I like that idea, right?
What would work? You have to have it, just figure it out.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Looking at that direction? Okay. Does that answer the question? Commissioner Soccer?
This is more of a drafting thing, because then good drafting leads to a solid defense of what we're doing. I think the most innocent one is, can we use the same spelling for things?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you
So
give me an
there's like,
example of what you're thinking?
multifamily is one word, and then
Yes.
multi-family.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was looking for something, I was like, I just want to see the multifamily one, and I couldn't find it. I was like, that's not possible that we only have this few.
Yes.
So then I changed the spelling and we had it.
It's like you don't even care about creativity.
Look, there's time for Shakespeare, and then there's time for redundancy and using the exact same word to bore everyone to death. And I think the other one, I'm trying to find it, it's on 1102. Because I think, sorry, 1102, I think it leaves an opening for interpretation, and I don't like those. All commercial, it's on 1105, so all commercial generators distributing and/or providing the following items shall provide on-site publicly accessible. Yeah, I don't want them to say like, well, I don't do both, because there's an and. I think it should be purely an or. So someone's like, well, I don't distribute it for like sale or anything, I just provide it to customers. Like, I don't
Yes.
want there to be any question of, do I need two or do I need one to qualify? So if there are any others like that inside this ordinance, I would prefer that they be gone.
Yes, absolutely. And this is only the second draft, and there will probably be 10 more, so, but I appreciate the feedback.
There's a pet peeve for me. No, you can't interpret this is what we meant. So the clearer for everyone, I think the less time we spend in the courtroom. Oh, I also did have one question on that one as well. Where is it? Where is it? I lost it. Where we said residentially, where they were done. It is the composting here. The composting multifamily.
What line was that? I was trying to find that myself.
That one is 1126. It's the single-family, multifamily food waste processing. It says shall be made available to all residentially serviced customers. My understanding is that multifamily units are not treated as residential, even though they are residences, they're treated as commercial.
Yes.
Can we either like separate those two, one for single family and one for multifamily, specifying that it's commercial?
Yes, we will have to do that.
Because I don't want them to go, well, we don't residentially service a commercial contract because it's a condo or an apartment building. And I think it might be better served by separating it and specifying what kind of service they receive. Which I know gives us a lot of headings and a lot of individual sections, but I want it to be like at a third grade reading level. So those would be my asks for now.
What was it Commissioner Simmons always said? Talk to me like I'm a...
Explain to me like I'm a third
There
grader.
you go.
I don't need it explained to me, I need it like understood by third graders. And if your third grader can figure it out, so can you. That's it. Thank you.
So one other thing just on the, beyond just what we spoke about today, is the name of the ordinance. It's on the zero waste schedule. Spoke a lot about, I think, zero waste or universal zero waste ordinance, and maybe the Article 3 would be changed to that or something to that effect.
We did not, I think Article 3 is solid waste disposal, and right now it's in the utility section next to electricity and water and sewerage, so we thought that it should remain solid waste disposal, just so that, like, I understand what zero waste is, but it's also sort of come about in recent years, and it might not stay around for that long, but solid waste will likely withstand the test of time.
Can we call it sustainable solid waste disposal as a halfway to it?
I mean, I think it's something that the Zero Waste Gainesville has pushed very hard, is they wanted the ordinance to be called the universal zero waste. A lot of other cities have called it that too. I don't think it could.
Could we call it that, but use the term solid waste within the ordinance? I don't want to like erase that term, just industry standard, but what we call our ordinances is what we call our ordinances. It's just,
I'm pretty sure the renters' rights one has a formal title.
No, we didn't actually. I mean, we don't really do that in Gainesville. A lot of other cities do actually have names for ordinance, something that frustrated me and that we don't actually, because I think it hurts our ability to push things out PR-wise and public policy-wise and be able to tell our story when we don't actually name things. But that's just one of the thoughts, one of the things that Zero Waste Gainesville pushed very hard on, and I know they're probably going to call all of us again if we don't do that. It's not the most important thing to me, I just know it's very important to them.
And they're scary.
But we can always change that at a later date if we want to give it more thought. Very easy change.
So the Kevin was taking better notes than me, so I think back on the first couple slides, you guys agreed that code enforcement is the way to go with that. And then
Multifamily.
Multifamily
signage.
signage, yeah. And then on the adequate space, maybe carve out some language for areas like downtown that really don't have the space, or would y'all like to address it in a different manner?
Well, I think that was one of working with the city to find, I mean, that's one of the issues we have, is we have tons of receptacles blocking sidewalks and things
Right.
like that. So I think finding ways to deal with that. I mean, if there's not, I mean, I guess having something where they can work with the city to try to make it work, and if we really can't make it work, then I guess they would get an exemption, but I think, I don't know what the,
Would that determination be made by the city then?
yes, yeah.
So like, you can provide a plan, if we still don't think it's good enough, and we can't think of a better one, we accept that. It's not done, and then we approve that.
Yeah. And then, yeah. All right. Is there any discussions on the zero waste ordinance portion? When do you all think you'll be able to come back with another kind of draft or questions or things like that?
We're going to continue working on this, but we appreciate you answering our questions about the enforcement today, so we will incorporate those. As you know, the city attorney is leaving and transitioning, and she's trying to get a lot of other things off her plate, and this is included in that. So it's hard to say when we'll have another draft.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on this item? All right, any discussion from the public on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next. And then thank you all for I know this is a nitty-gritty hard work, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, but it matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of phone calls.
This is actually where all this lasts, no matter how long we're in here, actually makes it into practical things. All right, so move on to construction and demolition.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come back with this. This has been probably the one item we've struggled with the most on these ordinances, in part because of its complexity and also because we've been kind of focusing on the stuff that was a little easier to do. So there were things that the subcommittee had talked about and requested, specifically that we were struggling with. We talked about the fees as they are related to not complying with the 80% recycling. There was some discussion about having fees up front, and there were fees out back, and then what would those fees be that would, bring about compliance, and so you definitely didn't want to be burdensome, but you didn't want people to get away with it. So that's what we've been struggling with for the most part. There's really nothing out there that we can cheat off or copy, as we often do in government. But so we've been struggling with that. And then the other issue is we've kind of worked our way through it, and as Commissioner Ariel has often said, that the construction part is definitely different than the demolition part. So we want to craft an ordinance that also addresses that. So that's where we are today. Generally, I feel like our staff is totally capable of doing, consultant level stuff. But maybe in this case, we might spend a little money and ask for some feedback from a consultant or something like that. Or if the subcommittee has any other thoughts going forward on that, I would appreciate it.
If that's staff recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have no problem. Well, I don't know how much we write that policy, but I mean, there's no issue.
Yeah, and I think the other part is, we do know that part of is being recycled, and we do know there is a facility out there in the future, even though it's not imminent. So I think we can kind of keep poking at this one and get it done, and maybe get some extra help on that along the way.
Yeah, I think, hopefully it's not, we don't have to go through a full.
No,
It's a short,
well,
we
yeah.
have some people,
Yeah.
I mean, there are other cities that have ordinances, and I'll go back.
Yeah, if there's one I missed or we missed,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But just kind of meeting the comments from the subcommittee has been a struggle. I think you guys are definitely going the right way. It's just sometimes hard to be cutting edge and get it right.
So the problem is the Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
We know where we want to get, it's just getting there is a
And
bit
we
of a
have
challenge.
a variety of suggestions.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just how to make our unique hybrid monstrosity.
Yeah.
So, I guess what are the hybrid things that are causing the issues? I mean, if there's like, because.
So pricing that kind of, or fees that kind of, make sense, and then, how to totally implement that and make sure it works is a bit of a challenge for us. And I think that we've made some progress, but, like I said, we've just kind of tinkering on it, and we are going to give more focus going forward.
So it's on the fees? The
Yeah,
fees that would be
yeah,
charged based
yeah.
on if they didn't do it? or
Yeah,
if they
because I think
did
we
do
got
it?
it worked, we got the paperwork kind of worked out, but we can just use from other communities. It's, do we have a certain amount of fees up front, do we have them in the back end, do we just, change our mind and do both, or neither, or do we understand there's a lot of compliance out there, or maybe we don't need that much of a stick to get it done?
I mean, I just personally trying to knock out fees unless they fall out, I think a fine is better than having to try to collect a bunch of money, and just because it increases the cost of construction when you're trying to add
Right.
more fees in the beginning.
And then the other thing we talked about was the size of the project, right? So, big project, the fine might be nothing, small project, it might be burdensome. So those are all the things we've been kind of playing with.
Yeah, I mean, if it seems like the committee is okay, I think that's probably a good idea moving forward with the consultant, trying to
Okay.
bring back some, then I'll do some research, I'll grab some
Yeah.
ordinances, bring me your way too.
Because
Good
I
deal.
don't think there's a full commission. Okay.
It's a staff decision that they're,
Yeah.
All right.
in their budgets.
All right. Good deal.
Michael's budget.
Yeah.
Which
Michael,
is your
Michael,
budget too.
My budget.
Yeah.
But remember how we
Which
just
then
had cost
means
savings?
your budget.
We just had some cost savings earlier, so it's fine.
All right, any other questions or discussion on this item, construction and demolition? Any discussion from the public? All right, is there what is your kind of timeline on this then?
Probably, the consultants always take longer than I ever want them to. That's the problem. Let me talk to consultants and we'll keep moving forward. And maybe we'll come back with an update in 2 months, and maybe we'll come up with something ourselves by then, or give you an update on where we are with that.
Probably the end of November. We'll see if we can we'll try to by the end of this week, find out who can do it and get a task order issued.
Yeah.
I'll try to push it through and get them on board as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on this one?
I would like to talk about the ordinance again. When do you think this you would want the full commission to see this ordinance?
So the direction from the commission was for this subcommittee to create the ordinance and then send that recommendation to the full commission. So as soon as you're done, we will kind of draft that we believe it is, we can recommend, we will send it to the full commission. So sooner the better.
We want to argue in front of a lot of people, the least amount of things. So.
Any other, okay, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? I do have one, I guess we'll jump to member comments, no member comment. I have one question for you all right now. Just since you're here now, I've been getting complaints from constituents on like not pickup and things like that. I'm wondering how is that a hiring issue? I guess would you be able to kind of discuss that a little bit on the issues with pickups of solid waste and other, just pick up for our residents?
Just in general, it is a staffing issue.
If you don't mind jumping up over here so you're on,
no problem.
the,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity. I'm Kevin Smith, General Manager at the Gainesville site.
And if you don't mind pulling up your mask a little bit.
Pull it up?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Yes, so a part of the issues are definitely staff related and the consistency of staff. Going in it, we try to staff up at least 20% past what we're budgeted to. That budgeted number is something that we don't look at as much as I want just personnel to be able to keep that consistency. And being able in these times that we're in, I hate using it as an excuse, but it is deterrent. Compared to other places, we have not canceled, we have not said that, hey, we can't handle. More or less, we've been a day or half a day behind versus just calling it quits on one commodity. And we just try to apply what we can strategically the best that we possibly can. We work with staff daily. I know that we try our best to fill the complaints that they have. We try to generalize and specify certain areas, especially in the city. I don't think I have to name them out loud now, but there's certain areas that produce more curbside bulk versus curbside recycling. We try our best to each day to go into those days with the best approach plan that we possibly can. But it's definitely staff. It's not an equipment problem. It is a personnel problem. When we talk about especially the commodities that we pick up by hand, the recyclables in a bulk, those are manually lifted and put into the back of the truck versus the MSW, the class 1 material, truck does 90% of what the work is. It's just filling that seat. So.
And do you have a timeline when you expect those staffing issues to be kind of resolved, or is it just continuing? Are y'all looking at increasing pay and stuff like that?
Yeah, we definitely increased pay.
Okay.
Just for an example, in the last 3 years, I've done market analysis adjustments that, baseline just non-CDL, that rate has went from $11.50 to $16 an hour with a $3,000 sign-on bonus to CDL holders making $20. There's not a CDL holder that I have at my plant that makes under $20.50 an hour versus when I got here from DC in 2016, those rates were $12.50 per hour for a driver. So we've made
big difference.
a lot of big difference in increases. We've partnered with Marion County Technical School as far as CDL Class A program. I'm doing like a tuition reimbursement program with those guys. So anything that we can creatively do to pull that workforce in, and not just to pull them in, it takes at least 6 to 8 months to get someone trained to be proficient in what they do. So we had a big hiring, I want to say around about like the April, May timeframe. Out of those, I want to say it's like a 60% retention. You just have some folks that realize that the Florida heat, picking that stuff up manually, they're just not built for it, right? So it's a lot of work. It really is. Figures sound nice until Gainesville gets on your back. That's what we call it, right? So managing that other employee. It's the heat, those two employees. Managing the heat and also managing through COVID. It's definitely been an obstacle. It's something that I wish it would call out sick for work, and it doesn't. It clocks in every day, unfortunately. So I hope I didn't kind of dance around, but just trying to give you as much of the factual information that I possibly can based on the situation that we're in right now.
I appreciate that, and I think that, it's a national issue we have with right now. So hopefully you all can help resolve it. Certainly, I felt like it's gotten a little better the last few weeks than it was a month or two ago. It was getting real bad.
A lot of things that we see, right? We see it today and we think, oh, today there was an answer. That's not it. And this line of work was March, right? hiring that 15 to 20, and those 8 or 9 that stuck around to kind of get the hang of it,
Now,
right?
okay.
You see the results of it now. So again, we're going through another hiring blitz. You know, we've even reached out, we've even got assistance from our Jacksonville locations. It's forced us to think outside of the box. So we have almost like a Green Beret militia group that's in the Jacksonville location, really is. It's called a Green Team. So there's about 15 individuals that, as much, you know, if we're down, hey, I need 2 or 3, right? Or I need 4 or 5. So it's gotten us to, even though through the struggles that we've had, it's definitely kind of had us not just kind of take a cookie cutter approach to service and stuff. So.
I think it's a little different. Is it mainly, I mean, is Gainesville, I mean, you're a large multinational company, is it I mean, you're saying you're bringing people from Jacksonville. Is Jacksonville not having the same issues? I mean, is Gainesville having more issues than other communities?
So in comparison, right, you look at, as far as the footprint, when I'm not talking about just the populace, I'm talking about that type of a worker, right? Just because of the sheer size and the magnitude of Jacksonville, you know, as far as getting people to come in and they keep that churn happening more frequently. A lot of the times, and I'll speak for my the haulers here, that we kind of circulate. You know, certain people, certain staff, you know, a certain type of a, let's say, specialty, right? We kind of circulate through, depending upon how things may have went with that employee at that point in time. So it kind of, you don't have that surplus that you have in a place like Jacksonville, and also too in Orlando. So even though those problems, they definitely do exist there, it's just making it and just having us to figure out ways to make people want to stay. That's it. So.
Thank you very much, and it definitely has gotten better. I know it's hard work. Thank you everyone out there working. It's hot.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the?
Them, RTS, the school board, we're all fighting for that same CDL
Yes, sir.
driver. And then last night, I think it was on TV 20, I saw advertisement for Cheney Brothers, the food delivery company, and they were advertising their salary, their benefits, hey, you'll be home every night. So obviously, they're having trouble with CDL drivers as well.
And also,
I'll just 2 things, just real quick. Good afternoon, Skip McCall with GFL. And just to add on to Kevin's point, you know, when we talk about this in our presentations with all of our municipal clients and all of our, all of our government entities, it's not more or less I hear labor shortage. It's more than that. It's a driver shortage. It's again what Mr. Mann just alluded to. We're all competing for that CDL Class B driver, and we've had to again increase our rates and $4,000 sign-on bonus and things to try to be creative to get that labor pool, that driver pool into our company. So it's been challenging, but yeah, it's like Kevin said, you can't stop Monday morning, having 4 guys that are now quarantined because of this COVID issue. So we just got to be proactive and try to move those guys around to where we can be able to still collect and provide the services that we are to all of our municipalities. Unfortunately, Clay County, just to the east of us here, they had to totally cut off their yard waste program and just trying to focus on picking up the trash and recyclables. So fortunately enough, we've been dedicated, and our folks have been dedicated enough to be able to not compromise any service levels, and it's just it's real. It's things that are happening out there. It's unfortunate, but we're just hoping to get through this sooner than later. So.
Yeah, the mayor of Jacksonville just announced they're indefinitely suspending recycling collection, and I would imagine it has to do very similarly with that issue. So keep working. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who's out there working.
Absolutely. Thank you. I will pass that word along.
We're getting what comes by. We got the hot census. We can do 7 weeks of common class.
Commissioner Earl?
Yeah. So is I understand that our sort of partners at Alachua County, they've been tuning into these conversations. So I guess we should sort of have a conversation about how we want to sort of hand the ball off to them, because what I heard was we're going to follow the city. So I guess we should sort of figure out, once we have a final ordinance, at that point, do we want to sort of set 2 parallel tracks, one with the city commission and then one with the county commission, or do we want to pass ours at the city commission and then see what they do?
I personally think we should just pass ours, and then we can send over saying, hey, this is what we passed, and because they need to make something that works for them. It doesn't mean that I think the ordinance works for them.
I don't know what the rest of the committee, that's my thought is, we go on, they are following what we're doing, and I think they're supportive of a lot of things that we're doing. I think we're just in a slightly faster track than they are. So if we wait for them to get theirs in order, I think it could be years from now before they actually pass their ordinance. I don't know, that's just kind of, same thing like on the rental housing ordinance. We passed it, and now they're gonna be probably a year behind us on implementation, or maybe a little month further out.
They extended their contract with GFL for 5 years.
Okay.
So we're way ahead of them on the commercial and multifamily single contract. And part of that has to do with the way the state law was written and how the city commission positioned ourselves in what, the 70s? And the
Way
county-
back, yeah.
And the county commission did not. They still have a bunch of legal hurdles they have to go through before they can do that. And I assume they're working on it because I know when we discussed it with their solid waste staff, the county commission's desire is to do it. It's just that we didn't have to wait the 5 years to do the all-in-one collection or the single contract.
Right.
I'm all for us finishing our own. They have access to this.
I know,
They
but-
have even more access because they can call and we'll answer.
The question is not what, the question is when and how. I mean, obviously we have relationships with county commissioners and we'll have to, leverage those relationships. But, that's all I'm asking is when you all wanted to sort of make that push.
So mine continues when we have a final vote, if only because my preference would be as close to mirroring as possible. And they won't know what that mirror is until we have a final vote, until we have a second reading.
Okay, that's right.
And then if they have any modifications, fine, but, if we do it prior to us voting, a little tweak this way, a little tweak this way, a little this here, and it ends up in different places. Because we each make, 10 minor tweaks, but at different places.
Same train, same station, different time, gotcha.
Commissioner Ward.
So Representative Clemens is trying to solve this problem for us. I think my earlier inclination was to work directly with the county and go in lockstep with it. But we have different meetings and different processes and different staff and different legal requirements. So I think in this case, there have been cases where they got ahead of us, like the living wage ordinance.
Wage theft, yeah.
So there are going to be times when they're able to put the model ordinance out there in terms of we can put it out there, but we tend to get all the same work done. Just I don't think we can do it together in step.
Any other discussion from the committee? Anything from staff or questions from staff on anything? All right, I guess our next meeting is October 12th, and we're adjourned.
All right.